What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are still doing well on this Saturday. Again, very chill Saturday, not a ton going on. So I want to keep talking about this because we're not going to have a lot of downtime for the rest of the year because things are going to get so compelling and things are going to get so tight that we're going to be investing all of our time into just talking about this team in the sense of what needs to happen in the next game. So with the understanding that there are still games left to play, I want to continue to explore this thought. Is the 2025 Seahawks defense as good or maybe even better than the 2013 defense? And I know saying that is extremely weighty and maybe even sacrilegious. I do not say that lightly, but if you watch the video I posted a few hours ago, you go through it, it's probably closer than you thought. All right, everybody, before we go any further, let's get some picks in over on Sleeper. If you're not using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy football this year, you are missing out. Check out the left side of your screen. Look at all the fun stuff you can get up to over there. Look at all these mores or lesses that you can pick. Let's put our entry together for this week. I've got JSN scoring an anytime touchdown. Didn't happen last week, but I'm feeling a bounce back this week. I got Chase Brown getting at least 52 rushing yards against the Bills. I got Achane getting at least 78 rushing yards against the Jets. And I've got the under on Gentil rushing yards at 53.5. So get on over to Sleeper, put your entries together. They can look just like this. Remember to use the promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Check out Sleeper today. Go have some fun and experience sports the way they were meant to be. Okay, so first video, we kind of went through the big picture with the defense. I actually kind of pointed out that it's competitive, especially when you take into account era. But let's talk about the players on the team because that's how you dig deeper, right? You can talk about, hey, the points, the yards, the EPA, the schedule. You can talk about the games, but really, and maybe we're even getting into almost a bit of a separate topic here, where you would say, okay, which defense was better, and then you then ask, which defense would you rather have? I know they sound like the same question. They're not necessarily the same question, but I want to compare the players. I want to talk about the rosters and how they were deployed and utilized and the kinds of seasons they had, and try to basically drill down to reality here. So we're going to start with the defensive line, and this is actually where I think the argument gains some legs. Defensive tackle. Okay, first of all, even though I understand that the 2013 Seahawks had a 4-3 and this defense has a 3-4, for the most part, the Seahawks in 2025 play in nickel, which is basically just a six-man front that kind of resembles a 4-3. So defensive line-wise, we can actually kind of talk about things on the same level. Like 2013, we had a nice rotation of interior linemen. We had three guys basically play the identical number of snaps, 532, 527, 532. So, I mean, we got balance. That's nice. And all three guys brought quality things to the table here. Clinton McDonald, 5.5 sacks. He was your main guy getting interior pressure. 34 pressures overall. Brandon Mebane somehow managed to have a season where he had 32 pressures and 0 sacks, which is like, I don't even know what to compare that to, but I'm willing to bet that almost never happens. All three guys made tons of plays in the backfield, a total of 19 tackles for loss from these three guys. They all were involved. They all did their job. Mebane in particular had an almost 90 PFF grade. Tony McDaniel was a really good role player. Clinton McDonald, same thing. But none of these guys were superstars or stars or even like particularly standout players. If you were not a Seahawks fan or closely following the team at the time of the 2013 season, you probably didn't know who any of these guys were. And other than Brandon Mebane, none of these guys went on to do a lot post 2013, I'll say post Seattle. They were just kind of there for the rest of their careers. Mebane, a little bit different, a little bit better, but even he occupied a very specific role, and he did that role very well. But when you're talking about comparing it to 2015, okay, it's less balanced, right? Because Leonard Williams, and remember, when you're looking at these numbers, remember the 2025 Seahawks still have games to play. Leonard Williams is probably going to get up to around 800 snaps, and Byron Murphy's going to get over 750. Jaron Reed missed a bunch of games, so he's probably going to end up at like 400, maybe slightly more. And obviously, it's clear that one guy is doing a little bit less than the other two, but the quality of play you get from Big Cat and Murphy is way above. Like these two guys are probably going to end up somewhere around 65 tackles each. They're going to end up with double-digit tackles for loss and possibly double-digit sacks. I think there's a really good chance both guys do that, which is very rare, not just in Seahawks history, and it certainly didn't happen in 2013. It's rare in the history of the NFL, I would say. And both guys are going to get over 50 pressures. And these are PFF pressures, by the way. There's a chance that Big Cat gets over 60 pressures and Murphy ends up with at least 55. Now, PFF is not as kind to those two guys as everything I just said indicates, but bottom line is, Leonard Williams, I mean, in my mind, he should probably make All-Pro, and Byron Murphy, it's starting to look like he's got a real shot at making All-Pro. You would never have put McDonald, McDaniel, or Mebane on the All-Pro team. You wouldn't have even thought about it. We might have two guys in competition for All-Pro this year. So, right off the bat, because this is one of the most important positions on the field, you're like, 2025 off to a kind of a big lead here. And then you get to your edge rushers, right? Edge rushers, we got 2013, Michael Bennett, awesome player, really effective. He was a guy who slid inside on passing downs, right? And provided push up the middle, as well as stuff off the edge. Loved him. 81.2 PFF grade. Cliff Averill, awesome stuff on the outside as well. 8 sacks, was a forced fumble master. Knocked down 4 passes this year. Batted down several passes at the line. Played in a tight rotation. Nobody played more than 600 snaps, which is always nice. So not only did you have really good players, you were deploying them really well. You had 3 players go over 40 pressures. Bennett had 65, which is, I mean, you're pushing up into elite territory there. Chris Clemens didn't play the whole season, but, I mean, he gave you about as much action as the other two guys, and he was effective as a pass rusher, kind of the unsung hero here. PFF didn't really like him very much, but you throw in Red Bryant here as kind of your big end, somebody who gave you almost 500 snaps and was really hard to deal with against the run. I mean, it's a great edge room, but honestly, everything that I just said, you stack it up against the 2025 edge room, it's very competitive. And you have some of the same things at play here. And actually, 2025 may end up being a little more balanced. The only thing that's keeping it from that would be the fact that Derek Hall has missed a couple games because he got hurt. Otherwise, perfect balance. Uchenna Nwosu, he's probably going to end up with something like 8 or 9 sacks, which is the same thing that you got from Bennett and Averill. Same for D-Law. D-Law is probably going to end up somewhere around 8 or 9 sacks. So Bennett and Averill, at least in terms of sacks, you're going to get similar production from Nwosu and Lawrence. And both guys are going to end up somewhere around 55, maybe even 60 pressures if they do really well at the end of the year. At least 50. And Derek Hall, I know, and Derek Hall and Boye Mafe, I know they're not having great years in terms of sacks. They are both playing well, though. Both guys have a PFF grade over 70. And both guys are going to end up with at least 45, maybe pushing up towards 50 pressures. You might have 4 different edge rushers on this team with 50 pressures. The 2013 team didn't have that. They had 3 guys that got pressure, and then Red Bryant was just kind of there to be the big edge that would help stop the run. So if I had to pick, I'd probably say 2013 was a little bit better because I think Bennett was a little more destructive. But honestly, with what we're getting out of DeMarcus Lawrence against the run and the pass, it's very close. And if you just take the defensive lines into consideration, the front fours, 2025 is significantly better. And the defensive line is what it's all about. And linebacker, you wanna jump to linebacker here. I mean, look, Bobby Wagner, one of the all-time great Seahawks, one of the all-time great inside linebackers in this league. I'm not here to say that he's somebody that can be easily beat out, but this was the second year of his career. He wasn't quite the complete wizard that he became later in his career. He didn't even make All-Pro this year, I don't think. He missed 2 games. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He was great. 120 tackles, 5 sacks, a couple picks, 12 pressures, 7 passes defensed. He was great. I'm not sitting here and saying that Wagner was in any way a bad player at this point. He was good. But as the PFF grade, I think, kind of illustrates, he was actually our worst graded linebacker this year. He was not the superstar yet, I don't think. He was very solid, very effective. KJ Wright, kind of on a similar plane, right? Really good player. But first of all, he missed time this year. He only played about 740 snaps, 80 tackles, sack and a half, 4 tackles for loss, 9 pressures. I mean, it's good stuff, right? But I don't think there's anything here that pops off the page as like an all-pro guy. I know we love these guys, Wagner and Wright. We go to war with those guys. We loved having them around, but this was early in their careers, and they weren't there yet. Maybe KJ Wright was about as good as he ever was. Maybe KJ Wright was already kind of in his prime here. I don't think Bobby Wagner was, at least not as a run defender. Maybe he was more of a playmaker. He was more of an athlete. I'm not criticizing him in any over-the-top way, but if you're just looking at 2013, I don't think it's quite the monsters of the midway you're looking at here. This is not, Harry Carson and shoot, who's the other guy with the Giants? God, I always forget the other guy's name. The other inside linebacker they had who was really good. Anyway, moving on. We did get significant snaps out of a couple other guys in 2013. Malcolm Smith actually played almost 500 snaps. Bruce Irvin played over 500. Irvin played some of his snaps as an edge, by the way, but mostly he was a linebacker. Malcolm Smith obviously had a tremendous last month and a half of the season, including the playoffs. Other than that, though, he was just kind of a guy, if we're being honest, right? He had an incredible, historic Super Bowl MVP winning run, but he, especially by 2014, he had turned into a complete pumpkin. He was good in 2013, though, I'll give him that. And Bruce Irvin was good too, but for the most part, he was notable as a pass rusher, and he didn't do a ton of pass rushing in 2013, so he was good. But I'm not seeing some historically great group of linebackers here. And then I'm going to 2025. I think the main hiccup here is just injuries, right? Tyrese Knight trying to play injured for a part of the season. He didn't look very good. Ernest Jones missed a couple of games there as well, same as Wagner. So that's kind of dragging things down a little bit. If Ernest Jones didn't miss those games, he'd probably have 100 tackles and things would look a little prettier right now. But honestly, even with PFF hating on him, you look at this and it's like, is he as good as Bobby Wagner was in 2013? The interceptions make it interesting because the interceptions are huge splash plays, man. And this run defense is every bit as good as it was in 2013, and Ernest Jones is a big part of that. I don't think Drake Thomas is as solid as KJ Wright, right? But he's more of a playmaker. He's got double-digit tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 6 passes defense. He's a better pass rusher, or at least was a more effective pass rusher than KJ Wright was, and really ever was. And it's not like the Seahawks blitz a ton. I know that the defense is different now than it was in 2013, but the Seahawks do not blitz that much. So it's not like Drake Knight is writing something here. And look, Tyrese Knight, frustrating season for him, had bad moments, but even he, really not that bad. So I'll bet this was closer than you thought, right? The linebackers, pretty competitive. We're going to wrap this up in a later video. See you guys soon. Go Hawks.